The sad truth is that hardly anyone watching this video will make it. Sure, it depends on your definition of making it, but if you're into music for fame and fortune, then you're going to be consistently disappointed. So in this video, which is going to be a little different from the usual format, I wanted to talk about why music is so important and address the question of why bother making music if you're not going to achieve fame and fortune. Hey, hope you're well. Rob here from Musician on a Mission. Besides music, one of my other passions is philosophy. So I think it's really important to ask questions like, why? Or what's the point? Especially when it comes to making music. Because ultimately it helps you to form a deeper relationship with that thing. I think it's really important that you ask yourself that question. Why am I making music? First of all, answering that question will make sure you're not setting yourself up for disappointment. And secondly, it forces you to focus on the now and present and figure out why you're actually doing this. Ultimately, my opinion is that you need to be making music for the right reasons. So, what are the right reasons? Well, personally, I don't think fame and fortune is one of them. Of course, if that's your goal, I completely understand. And that's awesome. If you're really striving to get to that point and you're willing to put up with the downsides, put in the blood and the sweat and the tears in order to get to a point where you're a famous world touring musician, then I commend you. I just want you to know that that is a really ambitious goal and it probably won't happen for most of you watching. And there are so many stories about how fame and fortune actually make people's lives worse rather than better. When you set these big audacious goals, even if you get there, you'll feel deflated and you won't be as content as you thought you would be. In fact, you often end up with more problems than when you started and you miss the good old days. So here's a good reason to make music. Because it's fun. It's an incredibly enjoyable, rewarding experience. Instead of focusing on some big distant goal, focus on enjoying it today. But it goes deeper than that. Music is a great way of achieving a state of flow, that feeling where you're just really in the moment and you forget everything else. Famous author Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi argues in his book Flow that these states of immersive focus are the key to true happiness. Arthur Schopenhauer, a 19th century German philosopher, might argue that these moments of bliss are the best way to escape the boredom and annoyance and suffering of normal everyday life. Depressing, I know, but he was a miserable old bastard. Another good reason is that music, for me at least, is almost a form of meditation. It's a similar idea. This process of clearing your head and just focusing on one thing at a time is a form of meditation. In The Practicing Mind, Thomas Sterner discusses how to get lost in a task like this so that you're just focused on one thing and you clear your head of everything else, forget your everyday worries and concerns and forget about your shitty boss and just focus on one thing and relax. But when you stray away from this and focus too much on a end goal, on something else that's further away in the future, that's when disappointment and contentment and frustration come into play. Because instead of just enjoying making music or enjoying learning a new skill like mixing, you get frustrated that your mixes don't sound good yet, and you get annoyed that you're not already a professional mixer and that you're not already famous. God damn it, why hasn't it happened yet? That's the road you don't want to go down. Focus on the here and now. When you're learning a new song, just enjoy figuring out the different notes, playing it over and over again, instead of just getting obsessed with this idea of like, I need to know the song. Why don't I know the song yet? Just take a step back, breathe, relax, and just enjoy it. And I'm sure we've all been through this. I can remember when I was learning bass and I used to get really jealous of other bassists that were much better than me or more technically skilled. They could do techniques like double thumb and weird shit like that I just couldn't do. And I did obsess over it for a while and it made me think I was a bad bassist. It upset me. But then after a year or two of going through this process, I took a step back and started to just focus on the music and composing and playing with my band, and I stopped worrying about technical ability and started focusing more on creating and enjoying the music making process. It didn't matter how good I was, all that mattered was how much I was enjoying it, and that switch had such a big impact on my life. So this idea of staying in the present, whether to achieve a state of flow or as a form of meditation, is just so vital to me, at least, and I recommend you try doing the same. And I highly recommend you go check out those books if you want to dive deeper into this topic. And I want to make it clear now before we wrap up that it's okay to have big goals. You can combine these two things. You can have a big goal of making it. And by the way, making it doesn't mean you have to be famous. It doesn't mean you have to earn a fortune. You can make it as a musician. Be a full-time musician in today's industry without a record label, without management. Because of the internet, because you can have direct access to your fans, it's quite possible to make a living as a musician from your own home. You don't need to be famous to do that, so you can still make it. But even if you want to be famous, that's fine. Just be aware that it is going to create these moments of disappointment, and try to focus on the everyday as you work towards that goal. Don't focus on the peak of the mountain, because then you're going to see how far you have to go. Instead, just focus on the next step, just one step at a time, and you'll get there eventually. So leave a comment below and let me know, why do you make music? What motivates you to make music? What brings you back to your studio every weekend and every evening to write new stuff and record and mix and learn all these new skills and spend a fortune on instruments and microphones? Why? What's the point? What's your personal motivation? Leave a comment, and I really can't wait to read these comments. So that's all from me, Rob here from Musician on a Mission, and remember, create regardless.